mount is, for me, probably the strongest position in Jiu-Jitsu. One, because of your ability to do damage from there, if it gets into a street fight, or your ability to strike. Also, just the ability, the distance that you have to be able to do damage, and the ability to submit the person, right? It's very difficult for them to stay safe from the mount when you mount on them. There's so many, it's so easy to catch them because anything they do kind of becomes a mistake. So we're going to play first with the mount position, the proper positioning, and then we're going to talk about, one, how to maintain that position. First and foremost against people that are just trying to use strength to get out. Because most of the time when you get into situations on the street, it's not against someone that knows Jiu-Jitsu. Hopefully they're not going to try to hip escape or elbow escape or bridge you. They're going to try to throw you off. So it's very, very important to know how to deal with 99% of the people out there. And then we'll talk about how to deal with the Jiu-Jitsu players. Okay? So the mount position is this. Anytime I'm mounted, first thing I want to do is I want to have my feet tucked underneath the butt. My knees are tight, and I'm sitting up. Okay? Now, when I'm sitting up, I don't want to be sitting straight up, because if he pushes me back, I'm going to be off balance. So I want to make sure that I'm leaning forward a little bit. Okay? So that way I'm strong, right? If he pushes me back, I'm strong here. Very, very important to keep the knees tight. That's such an important detail that nobody does, nobody understands. And the reason is this: if my knees are open, if he gets his elbow inside, he's already halfway out. If he gets his elbow inside, now he's able to create leverage and hip out, right? See how much space he's able to create? So you want to make sure that you're pinching tight with your knees, because now get your elbow inside, can't get his elbow inside. So already it makes his escape much more difficult, right? If he can't get his elbow inside and create some leverage. The other reason I had the tightness of the knees is because another option for him to escape is to get to his side, right? He's going to get to his side and try to elbow escape or hip escape. So just being tight with the knees, turn on your side. Feel how hard it is to turn on your side. If my knees are open, go. He can get on his side. My knees are tight, go. So hard. Get on his side. So also, we will talk a little bit about feel in a little bit, but if my knees are tight, any movement from him, if I'm connected to him with the tightness of the knees, any movement from him, I can feel what he's going to do before he even does it. And we'll play with that in a second. But for right now, knees tight, sitting up. Right? I never want to sit on my opponent, because if I'm sitting, I'm connected to his hips, and if he lifts his hips, I'm going to go flying everywhere, right? He has control of my balance. So from here, with my hips up, if he bumps, very little, right? Very little. There's a huge buffer. Even if he does affect my balance somehow, all that was a buffer. Now, maybe I fall. But not a huge explosion like if I'm sitting, right? So I want to have some space so that any little movement of his hip, see, doesn't affect me at all. And he's got to do a big explosion or something to really affect my balance. Not if I'm sitting and he move your hip a little bit, see, I'm already affected, right? So focus on knees tight, feet tucked in, sitting up, leaning a little bit forward. Okay, so what we're going to talk now is first two situations where if I'm dealing with someone with strength, there's only a certain amount of places a person on the bottom can try to push you to get you off. Okay, so the first situation we're going to play with is the knees. The person plucks the knees either with one hand or with two hands. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to come underneath and pluck. So if he plucks, pushes, try to push my knee, which happens all the time. I can't allow this to happen, right? So anytime he goes, I just pluck. Anytime, pluck. Okay. If he pushes my hips, so this is the second place. Anytime the guy goes to put hands on my hips, immediately my feet will come together. I'm pulling my heels to my butt, and what I want to do is I want to open my knees and engage my hip. So as soon as he goes to push, I'm here. So feet come together, I'm pulling my heels to my butt, my knees open, and I'm arching my back, okay? So my hips will become the lowest point. All my weight goes to my hips to counteract his push, right? Make sure that you guys don't half-ass this, because if I'm here push, he can still create leverage. Or if I'm a little bit late and I don't fully engage, he might get me off. But if I fully engage my hip, it's like a rock, right? super uncomfortable. And then when he stops pushing, I'm always back to my position. I'm always back here.
Right, go, push me back, push me back, push me back. Go, sit ups. I'm gonna fall. Right, especially a guy that's strong. He goes to push me. So, anytime I feel his hand touch me, what I want to do is, first of all, I want to put some weight into his hand so that he really feels like, oh, I have to push. And all I'm going to do is just change the angle. So, I'm doing this with my hands down for right now because I want you guys to really understand the turning of the shoulders and the angle. And then what we'll do is we'll add in the hands. Because, of course, when I'm in a fight, my hands are always up and I can use my elbows. But I don't want you to rely on your elbows. It's more turning the body. So every time I feel him here, I'm going to turn my shoulders. Every time I feel him push, right? So I engage, not so that I'm falling, but there's weight. So even if he takes his hand, I'm not falling. But from here, when he goes to push, see how I turn my shoulders? And his hand just slips off, so he pushes this side, here. Right? So that's one. The second thing he can do is he can throw me to the side. So from here, I can't really turn. He's got a grip on my side, right? So anytime I feel like I'm falling to the side, my hand will go to the ground, and my other hand acts like a grappling hook behind his head. Okay? So all I'm going to do is I'm going to hook behind the head, and my hand, I throw my hand out as far as I can. It's very important that my hand goes out far. If I put my hand on the ground here, once my shoulder passes my hand, I'm going to fall. If I put my elbow on the ground, well, first of all, I don't want to hurt my elbow. But if my elbow goes to the ground, still I'm going to fall. So the hand, anytime he pushes me to the side, hand has to go out far. Because once it gets past the point of my shoulder passing my wrist, I'm done. Okay, so let's try that. Pushing the chest, just turning your chest. Right? If he throws me to the side, just pluck. Boom. Here, grabbing the back of the neck and hand on the ground. Yes? So, you guys gather around so you can see. Okay? So, when he goes to push my chest, not only do I want to turn my chest, right? Because this, of course, will deflect everything. This, of course, will deflect everything. But I'm still here and he can push me again. So, not only do I want to deflect, but now what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide my weight all the way down to the back of his arm. Okay? Now he's not going to be able to pull his arm back, right? It's because with all my weight leaning on the back of his arm, all he has is the strength of his rear delt to be able to try to pull his arm back, which is a very weak muscle on most people. And even if it's not weak, it's too much to deal with the weight. So then I'm going to come underneath and grab the wrist. Foot goes up, and I'm going to turn him on his side. Okay, now all I'm going to do is hand comes inside, my other hand goes in front of the face, head goes aside, my leg comes out, step for the arm lock. Okay, when you go for the arm lock, make sure your knees are tight and your heels are tight. So, one more time. He goes to push me, so now that's a mistake, right? I can't let him get away with that. So he goes to push my chest. I'm going to turn my chest, and I want to already put all my weight on the back of his arm. So now he can't get me off. Grab the wrist, foot goes up, turn him on his side, hand goes inside, the other hand goes. So it's not important that I grab this wrist. I can if I want to, if I feel more comfortable. The most important thing is just my hand is here, inside. I'll deal with all the grips, breaking, and all that after I go into position. Step, knees tight, heels tight, right? Control, keep everything glued to my chest, and sit back for the arm. Let's say I miss the arm. So he throws me to the side, and I miss the neck. So now my hand will go to the wrist. My hip will soak up all the space, and now what I do is I slide my knee over, pinch my knee tight, and I take the arm. Okay, so this is a very fast arm lock. Once you get good at it, once you develop this, it comes on so fast. As soon as the person tries to push you, you're done. So he goes to throw me, I miss, boom, my knee comes here. So the importance of this arm lock is I want to base out on my hand, I want to keep my head up. My knees are very tight. Like you can see already here, he's already tapping, and then my knee hasn't even hit the ground. I haven't even engaged my hip yet. Because he's basically straightening his arm from me. So my knee will come here, and I just keep it glued. And then for leverage, I'm just going to engage my hip. Okay? But the tightness of this arm lock is in the knees. So when you come over the shoulder, make sure you're pinching your knees tight. And if you guys want to feel it, I'm happy to come over and show you. Right? But anytime he goes to push me to the side, as soon as I miss, hip grab the wrist, and my knee comes over. Right? I have the arm.
Does it matter if this foot pops out?
No, I mean, I try to keep it here. Sometimes the guy will roll over my leg. It doesn't matter. But from here, look, I can do it like this. Right? But if you roll over my leg, that's fine. You're still going to get your arm broken. He goes to stand up, right? Go to stand up, and I make him fall backwards. And as I sit up, he puts his hand on my chest. So this is another time he's giving me his arm. I just, boom, right? So anytime I'm trying to come up on top of him after this sweep, when I go up and he pushes me back, right? I can take the arm. So it's, once you learn how to use the hip to soak up the space, this arm lock comes a lot. Anytime the guy puts his hand on your chest, you can take the arm. Very easy. Right? So the last arm lock we're going to do, I wasn't going to show this one because we're running a long time, but it's such a good one. And the thing is, I'm sick and tired of seeing people use this as an escape, and that I want people to start getting caught more often. So I'm going to throw it out there for you guys. You guys ever see this where people push up on their shoulders and then they throw their legs over and they catch you, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, and then you start to fall off? Yeah. Right? Does that ever happen? Yeah. People like, and they throw one leg over. So what's the guy doing? He's stretching his arms from the mount, right? It's a big mistake. You guys can see already. Every time the guy pushes you from the mount or stretches his arms, it's a big opportunity. But I never see anybody take advantage of this situation. The guy starts to push me up, and then the guy's like this, and then all of a sudden the leg comes through, and then I'm losing, and then maybe the guy grabs my foot, and then I'm... So, as soon as he goes to grab my arms, and he starts to push, I just walk my hands to one side or the other. Now I just slide my knee up over the head. Okay? So, he goes to push. So he's helping me. As soon as he goes to push me up, I'm just going to slide to one side or the other. First I put my hands to the one side, right? Just depending on what arm I want to take. It's up to me, right? So he goes to push. As soon as I slide my knee over, I'm pinching my knees tight. And then from here, all I have to do is broken arm. So whatever side you prefer, most people have a side preference. But anytime they go to push you underneath, slide my knee over the head, pinch my knees tight, and his arm is gone. What we're going to play with now, we're going to finish talking about the maintaining the mount position. So what we just dealt with now is people that are using strength, that are trying to push you, throw you off, right? But since we're training all the time with other people that do Jiu-Jitsu, you have to know and understand what are their options to escape and how we can counter it. Okay? So, besides all these pushing things, there's two primary escapes for the guy on the bottom from the mount, right? One, he can trap my arm and he can bridge me, so he can use the umpa, right? So umpa escape. Right? That's one option. The second thing he can do is he can do like an elbow escape or a hip escape, right? So he gets his elbows down and turns on his side and either hips out or brings his leg underneath, right? Everyone's familiar with those two. Yes? Elbow escape, or sometimes the guy hips out. It's taught differently in different schools. The hip out escape is prevented completely by the tightness of the knees. So if you guys weren't keeping your knees tight before, and what they teach you at your school is the hip escape, to hip out, you will notice, who does the hip escape? Who does where they push the knees and they hip out? Who does that? Who knows? You do that? Where they hip out, or they bring the leg underneath?
Both.
Both? The tightness of the knee is completely, so
right.
If you do the
depends on what you feel, like how it's mounted.
Yeah, so like, for example, the hip out escape, yes. So if my knees are open and you hip out, right, go hip out. Right, that's the hip out escape. And then there's another escape where you come underneath it. But if I'm tight with my knees hip out, So just from the tightness of the knees, it's very difficult for him to be able to hip out, right? Unless he really tries to get his butt, because when I'm tight, I'm already above his butt.
Yeah,
And if he goes to the side, right? If he goes to the side, right, it's already stuck, kind of. So, yeah, basically those are the two main options to escape the mount: hip escape or elbow escape, or the bridge. Okay. So the counter for both of these escapes is the same thing, which is the side mount. What I call the side mount. People call it different things. People call it the technical mount. People call it the S mount. There's people call it headlock mount. I call it the side mount is because anytime the person turns on their side, this is the mount that you have to go to, which is you're sideways with the person. I hate it when people call this side mount because I'm not mounted on the guy, I'm laying across their side. So this is cross-side. Okay? Makes sense? I'm laying across the person's side. I'm mounted. So anytime he goes to bridge me, right, put my foot up. Okay? Because he's taking me this direction, my foot recovers. Because I don't have my hand to base out, my foot recovers my base. Now, if he tries to do an elbow escape or a hip escape, anytime he goes to do the elbow escape or the hip escape, go, my foot comes up. Okay, so the escape, two different escapes, but my counter is the same. So I want you guys to practice this counter. And what happens is the tightness of the knees, one, you can already see it really makes the hip escape very, very difficult. Okay, so that's what we want. We want everything the guy on the bottom to do to make it difficult. Now, it's not going to be easy. He might get away with it. It might work, but he's going to have to expend a lot of energy to make it work, to do it. Okay, so anytime he's here and he wants to elbow escape or hip escape, boom, leg comes up. Anytime he traps my arm to bridge me, foot comes up. Okay, and what you guys will feel. So let's practice this a little bit. And we'll talk a little bit about the connection of the legs and getting you guys to feel and react to your opponent's movements, okay? Knees tight, my eyes are closed. The idea is, because of this tightness of my legs, I can always feel what he's going to do. So you just start to turn to one side or the other to the elbow escape, and I'm going to tell you what side you're going to turn to. This side. This side. This side. This side. This side. So with my eyes closed, I could already feel as soon as he starts to move what he's going to do. I'm already ahead of him. If my knees are not tight, I lose that. I lose that feeling. I lose it. That's why it's so important to keep the knees tight, because that feeling, I already know what way he's going to turn. So from here, what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to keep on. So go elbow escape, either side, whatever you want. Go. Elbow escape. Elbow escape. Elbow escape. So with my eyes closed, I already know as soon as he goes to move, go, whatever you want to do. I'm already ahead of him. I already can feel, as soon as he starts to turn to the side, he's going to this side to escape. Time to put my leg up. Right? That's why it's called the side mount escape, because as he turns sideways, I have to shift to this position to counter his escape. So try that a little bit. Just play around with, one, just closing your eyes and keeping your knees tight, and feeling when your opponent turns to one side or the other. See if you can tell what side he's going to turn to. And then you can play with your hands on the ground. That'll help you just to be able to shift your legs. When he gets his elbow down and tries to turn on the side, boom, I'm already here. So the umpa. Normally what happens is the guy will trap the arm to bridge, right? Normal. So when he goes to bridge, so he goes for the umpa, it's the perfect time for me to take the arm. Okay, so as he goes for the bridge, so I'm here, he goes for the bridge. What I'm going to do is, as I slide my knee up, I can put my hand in front of the face, and I'll take his arm. Okay. So, and then you can do it slow, and then as you guys get better at shifting your weight and playing with it, if he goes fast, go. See? I'm already taking his arm as he as he gives it to me. The second one is for the elbow escape. Okay, so normally I always like to start with my hand in the collar anyways. Anytime I'm mounted, I usually start with my hand in the collar because this already threatens him, right? I already want to start to put into him the sense of fear of, oh crap, something's coming, oh, I'm in trouble. So I usually always start with the hand inside the collar because it's already starting to threaten the choke. So he goes for the elbow escape. When he goes for the elbow escape, look. I just feed my hand here. So if you guys can't see my grip, it's very important that you guys come here and see the grip because for many of you guys, this will help a lot with your collar choke. So from here, I'm going to slide it down, and what I do is I turn the collar inside out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide my hand around, and I just get a 2-finger grip. Very important that I turn my wrist on this. If I grab with a 4-finger grip, my wrist ends up turning like this, and it's hard for me to wrap around his neck. It ends up actually hurting my wrist a little bit. Sometimes I don't know if you guys ever felt like going for a collar choke, and it's like, oh, my wrist hurts. So I turn my hand upside down, and I'm just going to grab with 2 fingers. Sometimes I can just grab with 1 too, it depends, right? But it's not that important. What's important is that you turn your wrist. Okay, so that my arm, what happens is this collar wraps around his neck, my hand and my wrist take up the other side. So it's almost like a belt, like a loop around his neck. So I can hang him, right? So here, and then immediately my hand will come to this side. Now what I do is I pull down, so this hand does like a tricep extension, and my arm straightens here to choke. Okay. So I'm here, he brings his arms down. Right, so now he's not giving me his arms are low by my hip, right? So I'm going to attack the neck. So when he goes to turn to the side, here, get my grip, second hand comes here, and what I want to do is I'm going to straighten my arm, okay? And this hand goes down.